Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm extremely sorry for this late arrival. I'm not an expert at IT, and therefore it always takes me some time before I am able to launch myself into this internet world. But I'm sure that no amount of excuse can be acceptable, because by now I should be good at it. Without losing any more time, I begin with where I had left in my last presentation. We had started reading the Quran right from the beginning, and that's what we hope to do for as long as the Almighty allows us the opportunity. I had done some part of Surah Al Fatiha. I hope to complete it today. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah from the evil whispers of Satan, the rejected one. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise and all expressions of thankfulness, gratitude are for Allah, Rabbil Alameen, who is the sustainer of all humans. He is the sustainer of the entire mankind. I explained it in my last presentation that even though the literal translation of Alameen would be all the worlds, Alam is a world, Alameen is the plural of it. But it is the style of presentation in Arabic, and as indeed in most other languages, that at times you mention a certain noun, and what you really mean by mentioning it is not the noun itself, but what it carries, what it contains. So if I say that please give me a cup, it really means give me tea. Tea which is contained in this cup. I just wanted to have an excuse to have a sip of it. Likewise, Alameen here means the humans who are living in this world. Why am I translating it as humans, the Lord of all humans, instead of the Lord, the sustainer of the entire existence, even though that's what the reality is? The Almighty indeed is the sustainer of the entire existence. However, the reason why I am mentioning it, the reason why I'm translating it differently and mentioning the fact that the verse here is actually giving the meaning of sustainer of all humans is because honestly we're not interested in other universes or worlds. We are interested in ourselves. The reason why we are approaching God, thanking Him and praising Him is because He is enabling us to live, to survive, to thrive, to be able to satisfy our needs. Had that not been the case, no matter whether He would have been the king of the entire existence, we wouldn't have bothered. That's one reason. The other, and probably the more important reason why I am translating it that way is that there are other verses in the Quran which gives you a more strong reason to believe that Alameen doesn't mean here and elsewhere worlds. It means those who are living in this world. So for instance, the Quran mentions about the Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, that He has given him the Quran li takuna lil alamina nazira, so that he becomes a warner for Alameen. Obviously, he is a warner not for all universes, he is a warner for the people. So, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all expressions of praise and all expressions of gratitude are meant for Allah, who is the Lord, the sustainer of all humans. Our needs are being adequately met, and we are being taken care of by Him. And let's face it, that is why we are thanking Him at a big level. We are all selfish. Let the entire world be enjoying. If I am miserable, if I am going through agony, I don't care. So I am approaching my God and I am thanking Him because He's so very kind, so very helpful, so very caring that He's taking care of my needs. I've already mentioned that this prayer is actually words of prayer given by the Almighty to those people who were present at the time when the Quran was about to be revealed. So they had a yearning, they had a feeling, they were eagerly looking forward to something. At times, what happens is that you have a very strong inclination from inside. You have a strong feeling. You're looking forward to something. But you don't really know what it is. You're not very precise and clear in what your need is and what exactly is it that you're asking for. So the Almighty has given these words of Surah Al Fatiha, the prayer of Al Fatiha, to the people, the good-natured people of the Arabian Peninsula at the time when the Quran was about to be revealed. It's like the same as it happened in the case of Adam alayhi salam. When he fell to the evil whisperings of Satan and did something wrong, he and Eve both, Hawa alayhi salam, and they both realized that something wrong has happened, and they had a feeling of remorse, of regret, but they didn't know how to express it. So the Quran says, فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ. Adam got from his Lord certain words, فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ, and he expressed his regrets. He repented through those words, and God accepted his repentance. Likewise, it seems that the Almighty has given these words to the people who were present at the time when the Quran was being revealed, was about to be revealed. To the people who were good-natured, who were looking for guidance. And the Almighty provided them with this guidance. So these words are actually, obviously, the right, appropriate words which need to be expressed for every human, for him or her to get guidance from the Almighty. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all expressions of praise and thankfulness are for Allah, the sustainer of the entire humankind. Allah is Al-Ilah. It was the name given to the God, the creator, the sustainer, the one and the only. Arabs were polytheists, many of them, but they all agreed that the one who created them and the one who is running the affairs of this world is Allah. So that's the name, the real name in Arabic for the creator, for the master, the one whom we worship. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. His mercy is profound, whose mercy is profound, whose mercy is forever. I've already mentioned about it in the last presentation that these are the two attributes of the Almighty. They have been expressed in two different molds. One mold Rahman, Fa'alan is the mold of a noun, which when a noun is expressed in this particular form, it really means that the attribute which is being expressed is found in abundance. Musa alayhi salam returned after meeting God, learning about the fact that people had gone astray, and he was ghadbana, asifa. He was in rage, furious, and asifa, and was saddened as well. Ar-Rahim is the other expression, which is again originates from the three letters Rahama, but this mold of Rahim, Fa'il, is actually giving it another meaning. The attribute of Rahma, mercy, is found in the Almighty, not temporarily, but forever. So God is both Rahman, His mercy is immense, is beyond any limits, unimaginable, and His mercy is not temporary, it's forever. Maliki Yawmiddin, and one result, consequence of His mercy is that He is going to be the master of the Day of Judgment. He is the master of the present worldly life as well. He is the one who created it. He is the one who is sustaining it. But for the sake of trial, He has allowed this life to be a life where people have freedom, they have choice. So, they can do things which would go completely against the Almighty's decisions, His likes and preferences. But on the Day of Judgment, He is going to become the complete master. Nothing would happen against His will. Limanil mulkul yawm. It will be asked whose dominance is on today in this particular duration when it's happening. Lillahil wahidil qahar. And the response would be that the mastery, the governance, the sovereignty is for Allah. Lillahil wahid, who is the only one alone, qahar, completely in control. So, I didn't mention the other day that because God is Rahman and Rahim, extremely merciful, and His mercy has no limits, therefore there is going to be a Day of Judgment. This life alone, if you look at it, view it in its totality, does not give you an impression that the creator of this world is necessarily merciful. On the contrary, what you get is the impression that probably he's careless, is not interested, is not kind. I mean, He allows so many miseries, tragedies to take place, and if He's powerful, He doesn't intervene in many cases. There are incidents after incidents that happen, and you can't make anything out of it. I mean, why is it happening? Why is there's so much of suffering? Why should I go through this pain, this agony, this distress, this tragedy, this tension, this trauma? No answer, honestly, no answer. If you do not have the concept of life hereafter accompanying this present worldly life. So, because God is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, therefore there is going to be a Day of Judgment, and He is going to be the master of it. He is going to make sure that all the evils that happen in this world, which caused pain to others, they're going to be taken care of. They're going to be, finally, their case is going to be settled, and the ultimate decision, verdict is going to be given, and then the result is going to happen, is going to be implemented. And those who will be declared successful are going to be the ones who would deserve to be successful. because they in this life did as best as they could to lead a life of piety, of goodness. And those who were evil, those who were unfair, unkind, are going to be taken to task. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. These three verses lead the one praying to come to the ultimate expression coming from him, that it is these attributes of God, it's this realization of what God is, what his plans are, that cause the individual to be inclined to worship God. So the person praying says, only you shall we worship, and only you shall we seek help from. Well, it's present as well as future. Only you do we worship, and only from you shall we, and only from you do we seek help. The idea is that when you know somebody like God, who is the creator, who is doing everything that we are experiencing, well, he is responsible for everything that is happening, and he has a great plan. He wants us to grow. He wants us to improve, to be up to the standards that he expects from us, for us to be able to ultimately be declared deserving of his mercy, of his rewards. So somebody as great as God is the one who deserves to be worshipped. He is the one before whom one needs to express one's feelings of humility, of meekness, of feeling of somebody who is bowing, prostrating for help, and expressing the reality that he is great and we are nobody. We have no strength, we have no real authority. He is the one who is in complete authority, and therefore we bow down before him and we acknowledge his greatness. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, and from you alone we seek help. That is, in this life we do get help from others. We are all dependent on each other. Nobody is self-sufficient. I have certain needs which I am able to fulfill because there are others cooperating with me. Others have their needs met through me. So we are interdependent. So we get help from each other, and there is nothing wrong in it. It's quite understandable. That's how life has been designed. However, there are certain kinds of needs that we can seek from only the one who is in complete command of the entire existence. We want to seek help from somebody who is the master. That help cannot be sought from anyone other than Allah, because He is the only one who knows our needs, who knows our weaknesses, who knows our prayers, who knows what we do in the open, in the brightness of the day, and in the darkness of night. So we seek His help, and we seek His help knowing that He knows that we are asking Him for help, and knowing that He is the only one capable of coming to our rescue. That kind of help cannot be sought from anybody other than Allah. So the idea is that when we say Iyaka nasta'in, what we are essentially saying is that there is nobody, O God, O Allah, other than you, who deserves to be given the status whereby we would ask Him instead of you to be helped, even though we can't see Him, even though we do not have a direct communication with Him, and we have an understanding, we have a faith that other being also has some supernatural abilities like you to listen to what we are saying, what we are thinking, and to be able to help us through means which are beyond our comprehension. There is nobody else except you, not even at a small, low level, ordinary level. There is none whatsoever. So we seek your help and nobody else's. That's, by the way, what it means when we say La ilaha illallah. There is no ilah, there is no God, there is no deity worthy of being worshipped or sought help from except Allah. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Now, these 4 verses are the ones which were from the person who is praying to God and is inclining himself towards God, talking about His attributes and assuring Him of His commitment to worship Him and to seek His help. But now comes the prayer, or let's say now comes the real mention of help. So, we need God's help in many ways, in almost everything that we need in this world. However, there is one area, there is one need for which we expect God's help more than anything else, more than any other need. And that is guidance. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Oh God, guide us to the straight path. What is guidance? Coming to this world, when we start realizing that we are now, independent beings, we grow up, we move ahead of our childhood days to adolescent and then become aware of our surroundings. There are questions after questions that come to our mind. I have a feeling that probably those questions are more disturbing, more prominent, pronounced when we are teenagers. The reason is that, when as a teenager you all of a sudden realize that it's not just your parents, it's not just your, those childhood days, games and toys and the other recreational activities that are that deserve our attention. Much more than that, this brilliant, amazing world that we are a part of, it's amazing, and it draws our attention towards itself. For some people, sooner; for others, a little later. But what we find ourselves, generally speaking, by and large, is in a state of puzzle. We are bewildered. We're not sure. What is this big, huge world about? What is this life that I have been given? Who created us? And why? And why is this life the way it is? Why is there so much of suffering? And alongside suffering, there's so much to offer in life. Why do people die? We want to live on, but this life is, it's a mystery. So It is not possible. Honestly, it's not possible. There's absolutely no question that these questions don't come to one's mind. And as I said, more significantly when we are in our childhood days, when we are teenagers, probably because at that stage we don't have the burden of life, the burden of the needs and the activities of working and earning and responsibilities, etc. But obviously these questions are there even when we grow older. And some people, they start asking these questions at a much later stage, and more significantly when something significant happens in one's life, some tragedy, some loss, you start questioning. And the question is, guide us. We want answers. And if you are a good person and you are, you've been able to preserve your nature by and large to a good extent, you would ask God. Which God? Well, the one who is here, inside us. Honestly, you don't go for any intellectual arguments. The arguments are there. But more than those arguments, the God is here inside us. I can't believe, if there would be any person who would claim that at some stage in his life, sooner or later, there was this experience of feeling of God, inside. And you seek help from Him. You might ask, why then there are so many atheists in this world? Well, probably they would say that the feeling of presence of God that we have from inside is actually given to us by the society, which has somehow imposed those views on us. But the fact of the matter is that we do realize that we need to seek help from God. And so we say, Ehdina as-siratal mustaqim. Guide us to the right path. Right path? Well, the path that is going to lead us to success. What success? Life is uncertain. And we want certainty. We want security. We want long-term, permanent salvation, success. We want our Creator to be pleased with us. We want to satisfy Him. So, even though these ideas, these thoughts may be vague, but they are there. And so we seek help from God, and that is exactly what those people did who were present there at the time when the Quran was about to be revealed, and they asked God for this help. And the rest of the Quran is the response to this prayer. We'll see shortly. So, Ehdina as-siratal mustaqim. Guide us to the right path. Siratal lazina an'amta alayhim. Now, when you ask for something that you value, you think is important, you would not like it to be kept vague. You would like to clarify it. So the prayer goes on to clarify what kind of path is being sought. This next verse in this prayer is actually mentioning the fact that we are not the first humans to come to this world, to come to life. There is a history of humankind that has already gone by. Amongst the people who've gone by, we want to follow the path of those whose performance the Almighty was pleased with. So, we are asking God to lead us to the path, Siratal Lazina An'amta Alayhim, the path of those on whom you showered your mercy. An'amta Alayhim. You conferred your mercy, your kindness. This is what the Quran mentions. And the Quran tells us in Surah Nisa, Surah number 4, chapter 4, verse 69, who these people are. The Quran says, وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولِ, whoever follows God and the Messenger, فَأُولَٰئِكَ, such are the people, مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ, who are going to ultimately be given to live with those on whom God showered His mercy. An'ama Allahu alayhim. Here the prayer is An'amta alayhim. It's the same words, An'ama Allahu alayhim. And who are the ones on whom God has showered His mercy? Minan Nabiyyin, prophets, was Siddiqeen, and those who were Siddiq, who supported those prophets, were truthful and were devoted, was Shuhada, those who lived a life which showed, which manifested as witnesses. They showed themselves as witnesses of the Almighty's message. They followed it, they lived it, and they also let others learn about it. Was Salihin, and other pious people who followed the good morals and were truthful and honest. وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا, and what a good company these people are going to have. In other words, Siratal Lazina An'amta Alayhim is actually clarifying that we want to get the path of those people. We want to know the path of those people on whom you showered your mercy. In actual fact, that's not about all. The Quran is not just saying that show us the path of those people on whom you showered your mercy, but it is also saying that show us the path, enable us to be comfortable with it. It's not enough for you to know what that path is. If you're not inclined, if you're not interested, what good that path would be. In actual fact, it probably is going to be counterproductive. So, show us the path, give us an inclination to follow that path, enable us to overcome the difficulties that we will confront while following that path, and take us to the ultimate destination. All this is there in Ihdinas Siratal Mustaqim. How? Well, because it's a technical explanation, but just briefly, the Quran is not saying Ihdina ilas Siratal Mustaqim. It's saying Ihdinas Siratal Mustaqim, and just by merely removing that preposition ila, these vast meanings have been included, inserted in this expression. So we are asking for this path to be shown so that we are convinced, so that we follow it, so that the difficulties are removed, and so that ultimately it leads us to the ultimate success. Siratal Lazina An'amta Alayhim, the path of those on whom you showered your mercy. Ghayril Maghdubi Alayhim, those on whom you were, those with whom you were displeased, not their path. It's not a very good translation that I've done, but what it means is that al-maghdubi alayhim, those who deserved your wrath, your displeasure, not their path. Walad dhalleen, and those who went astray, neither their path. In other words, these two expressions, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, are talking about the same group of people who are Sirat al-Lazina Anamta alayhim. The only difference is that Al-Lazina Anamta alayhim has been mentioned positively, and غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ have been mentioned negatively. So we are seeking the Almighty's help to be guided to the right path, the path of the people on whom the Almighty showered His mercy, who were neither the ones who deserved the Almighty's displeasure, nor were they the ones who went astray. In other words, there are two types of misguidances that one can fall into. One kind of misguidance is when one leads a life where one is not bothered about God, piety, goodness, morals. It's just led by desires, base desires, ego. The only goal of such people is this worldly life and its pleasures and nothing else. So what they do is that they invite the Almighty's displeasure, His wrath, His anger. So those on whom the Almighty conferred His blessings are the ones who were not the ones who deserved His displeasure. وَلَا nor were they the ones who were led astray. Now, how could you be led astray when you're not going after your base desires, when you're not after your lust, your ego, etc.? How can you go astray? Well, the example is when you are not interested in God's religion, when you are presented with God's message, but you just don't take it seriously. Instead, you have an alternative plan. You have another way of leading a spiritual life. You come to learn about the fact that there is a message of God, but you say that, you know what I have got is better. Or I'm going to only take a part of it, not the whole of it, because I have my own ways. Probably I didn't say it right. I mean, obviously it is actually ego. There are people who for some reason, for the reason of their egoistic inclinations, they do not accept God's message in totality, and they go for religious innovations, they go for paths, they go for ways which are not mentioned by God through His messengers. That's what this Surah Al Fatiha is all about. The next surah begins by saying Alif Lam Mim Zalikal Kitab. This is the book, La Rayba Fihi, there is no doubt about it. Hudal lil Muttaqin. It has become a source of guidance for the God conscious. We'll talk about it in the next session, but I just read it because I wanted to show that the next surah and the entire Quran is actually in response to Surah Al Fatiha. That is why Surah Al Fatiha has been given the position, the place of the beginning chapter of the Quran. And that is what it actually means by Al Fatiha, the beginning chapter of the Quran. That is what I had to say. And now if you have any questions, let me see if somebody wants to ask here, or somebody has written there.
Aleikum, sir.
Well, just a minute. Can I just write? Please, go ahead.
First question is for a friend. Her mother recently passed away, and she wanted to know if we could keep fasts for the deceased, for deceased parents, or pray qaza namaz or do Hajj. Like, can can children do that for their parents? That's the first question. And the second question is about Surah Fatiha that you just explained. So are there three groups of people? Like Surah Fatiha could have ended at Anamta Aleikum. But I'm just wondering that when Allah goes further on to mention that, include us amongst the people who you showered your blessings upon, and not amongst the other two groups. So are these the three broad groups of people mentioned in Quran overall? Would the kuffar and the munafiqeen fit into either of the last two groups that were mentioned? I'm just wondering, this to my mind, that why did Allah need to stress on غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ? It could have ended at أَنَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ.
Right. I hope you heard the questions. The first question was regarding whether we can fast on behalf of somebody very close to us, mother, father who has passed away, or do other good deeds, more particularly the obligatory acts of worship which they could not perform. The answer is no. We can only pray for them. We come to this world where we are being tried and tested. This life is for test, and the next life is the result of this test. The Quran says clearly, لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man shall get nothing except what he does himself. That is in the hereafter. Had I been explaining this verse, I would have just stopped there and said, that's it, that's about it. But the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, he explained it beautifully and brought out certain implications of this verse and said that when a man dies, his deeds, the book of his deeds is closed, and therefore nothing can be added to it, except three things. One, some good project that he left, which is helping others even after his death, what we call sadqa jariyah, or knowledge that he imparted during his lifetime and is benefiting people even after his death, his students, his books, and now obviously these cassettes and videos, etc. And thirdly, his or her pious children who pray for him. This third category that the Prophet ﷺ explained, my understanding is, in the light of the verse, that these other people, kids, children, students, or others who were influenced by the good influence of the one who is gone, and they pray because of the good influence they had from the person who is left. And therefore the Almighty is kind and gracious enough to accept the prayers of such people. But it would not compensate for the prayers, the obligatory prayers that they left, they could not perform, or the fasts, obligatory fasts that they could not do. All that we can do is to pray to God, asking Him to forgive them for what they did, or they didn't do. And hopefully God is going to listen to what we are saying if we pray to Him earnestly. The second question that she asked was that why did the Quranic prayer did not end at Siratal Lazina Anamta Alayhim, the path of those on whom you showered your mercy? Why did it have to mention Ghairil Maghdubi Alayhim Waladhdallin, not the ones who earned your displeasure, nor the ones who went astray? And the question further goes saying that is it what is meant, what the Quran then goes on to explain, the kuffar, is it meant by by these expressions, does it mention what ultimately people turned out to be kuffar, munafiq, etc.? I think it's a good question. Let me admit I've come across this question for the first time. But what comes to my mind immediately is that, goodness is one path, and that one path doesn't really mean that all good people are identical. No, there's a variety of people who have their own levels of goodnesses, and they have their own areas where they do better than other good people, and so on. Likewise is the evil path. People who are influenced by their desires and by their ego to such a great extent that they are not interested in the right path, most certainly would ultimately be declared as kuffar, because they rejected the truth, and they rejected it knowingly. And those who were led astray would also be categorized in the same bracket, because here the Almighty is actually talking about, let's say, the reason why some people are led to become kuffar, munafiq, or they just leave the Almighty's message or the right way, because they are overwhelmed by their base desires, or they are just not bothered about what the Almighty has sent them for guidance. So that's a general statement. It's a general category. But this general category, when the messengers of God come, they then break into the categories of mushrik, of kuffar, of munafiq. I hope I've done something to answer it. Why I become... Sorry. Any other question?
Sorry. Yeah, just adding to the first question, there's a concept of Hajj Badal. I hear of people requesting others to do, if they aren't able to do Hajj, and people even pay others to do Hajj Badal. It seems like an industry going on. Just keeps like this. Now, the way you've answered the question, I'm just wondering that what is Hajj Badal then?
Yeah, one is in a very comfortable zone. One is free from these confusions and doubts. When one is making an earnest attempt to follow the Quran diligently, no religious concept can go against the Quran. No religious behavior, acceptable behavior, can run contrary to clearly stated Quranic principles. I might understand the Quran incorrectly. I should be helped to know it correctly. The verse of the Quran, Laysa lil insani illa ma sa'a, is absolutely clear. It's simple. No man can get anything except what he does himself. La taziru waziratun wizra ukhra. No bearer of burden shall share the burden of somebody else. Why? Because God is just. He is going to bring the day of judgment where every soul is going to get what he himself, herself did. And no outside help is going to be offered. Now, Hajj Badal. These concepts have emerged because there is some mention of some incidents reported from the life, the times of the Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him. If you bring them all together and you understand them in the light of the Quran, what seems to be their explanation or interpretation is that there were parents, there were people who left this world with a very strong yearning that they should do Hajj, but were not able to do it. And they left this world, and some daughter, some son came to the Prophet asking him if he or she could do on behalf of the deceased mother. And the Prophet ﷺ, he allowed them. And there is a mention that he said, you are going to be rewarded for it. Now, the way I understand it is this, that a mother dies and dies with this very strong yearning that she should have done Hajj and she wanted to do it. But despite her strong desire for it, she couldn't do it. She will get the reward of doing Hajj because of this strong desire. Her daughter or son would get the reward for doing Hajj on her behalf. So what she desired was actually implemented and actualized by the son or daughter. That's it. This notion cannot negate the Quran. And by the way, if somebody is asking somebody else to do Hajj on her behalf, the question is why? Can the person not do it herself? If you say, yeah, that's what the problem is, then my answer is then the person is not actually responsible to do Hajj. It's not obligatory on him. Then you ask me, what's wrong with the idea if the person himself cannot do it because of some physical, disability, some limitation. And the person is wealthy enough and asks somebody else to do it. Fine, I have no problems. Now it's clear. But it is not possible that you are wealthy, you can undergo the journey, and you don't do it yourself because you're too busy or because you don't want to do it. Somebody else should do it. No. Your Hajj will not be done. However, if you have an excuse, because of some physical limitation, then you don't need to do Hajj. But if you help somebody else do Hajj, well, it's great. But you call it Hajj Badal, it doesn't matter. But that sounds okay. I hope your question is answered.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Right, let me see here. Why I become angry when I offer Salah? Please ask yourself, I don't know. I mean, I'll have to interview a little more. When you say your Salat, you normally should feel good. You're talking to God, you're doing prostration, sajda to Him, and why do you get angry? I need to know more about it. All right, let's move. Sometimes I feel so bewildered by even one cell, the way infinite mechanism to sustain life. Life seems like a mystery, how it is created and is sustained by uncountable systems. Why we feel, oh God, why we feel what? Why we feel so limited, so bound to understand these fabrics of a universe, like even plants have so intricate systems of communication and survival. Why He has given so limited wisdom to understand our own self. You know what? If you read the Quran, one of the brilliant things that the Quran does is that when you read it, honest to God, you get a feeling that you are reading the book of somebody who has created this life. The way he points at some of these very realities that you've mentioned, ants and plants, etc. And the way he expresses himself in the Quran, you get a very strong feeling that, nobody can do it except God. The one who has done it. One of the passages of the Quran in Surah Al says, look at the plants and look at the fruits when they ripe. It is He who has done it for you. And, He is the one who is taking care of your needs. It is as if, he's proud of it. He's very proudly presenting his creation, his products. I'm fascinated when I read the Quran and it mentions about the rainfall. I mean, I never thought of it. He says, have you never thought about the fact that you needed food, you needed crops, you needed wheat, rice, and vegetables. And you know what I did for you? I arranged the soil to have fertility. I arranged clouds to be formed and then sent to these different lands, and rain fell, and the sunshine fell upon these different tracts of land, and the plants started sprouting. My goodness, I mean, honestly, it amazes you, and you say to yourself how ungrateful I am. I mean, had it not happened, had this arrangement not been there, I wouldn't have survived. So you're right, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. This is an amazing world, which actually is inviting all of us to look at this world and to basically come close to God, to thank Him, and to say to Him, "Oh God, you're great. We love you." I mean, we're absolutely amazed at what you've done. My query is, what about inherited with all the wealth and opportunities versus those with poverty versus SUS, miseries and no opportunities at all? It seems so unjust that it's a place for the test, in spite that some would be tested by so much like them, like health, wealth and power, and someone with none. It sounds so unjust. Test paper should be balanced and poised as he is so just and fair. Right, okay, that's a fair question. But you know what? The Almighty says that He tests you in basically two different ways. Either the test is a test of your patience, or it's a test of your gratefulness, thankfulness. You have not seen the next life, nor have I. But the Quran says that that's the real life. This life is only a test. If somebody is powerful, rich, full of luxuries, for how long? 60, 70, 80, 90 years, and it's all going to be finished and folded up. The next life is going to be forever. And God is going to grade the individual's performance. So honestly, you know what? It seems that, well, I don't want to agree with you. I don't agree with you that this test is unfair. It's absolutely fair. But if at all it is unfair, you know what? It's unfair to those who are rich, because they are being tested more seriously. I mean, the poor people, they go through miseries. They're going to be graded more lightly. But honestly, God is going to be fair to both. But God is not going to allow these miseries to go unnoticed, ungraded, unrewarded. So what is the problem? I mean, that's what the Quran says, that this life alone is not enough. It has to be followed by another life, or this life is absolutely unfair. I agree with you. But if there is another life, then I think your criticism is not very valid, because you've not seen the other life and you've not seen the results of over there. The Almighty tells us that people will forget about the luxuries, whatever good quality life they had in this world, would regret that they had that life because they didn't perform well. So God knows whether given my potential, He knows my potential, He knows my capacity. So given my capacity and my potential, He knows whether I would do well in one set of circumstances or in another. And He, being all-knowing and all-wise, would arrange for me, being kind, to go through the test that He knows I am more capable of going through successfully. So, don't doubt the Almighty's kindness. His test is absolutely fair, and inshallah you would know that it's something that you will notice that will be properly handled. Is English lecturer? I don't know. No sound. Okay. Just a minute, please. I've not given you the time right now. I guess because the Quran is for us human beings. Right. Sometimes I don't get the message.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? My question was that, okay, life is a trial, and if God knows.
I have missed a couple of questions. Right. Okay, I was looking at the questions. Please, when I tell you to ask, please ask then. Yes. Carry on, please, now. Yes.
When I ask now?
Yes.
I said, life is a trial, and if God knows what my performance is going to be like, then can't He help me to make my performance better so my trials will be less?
Okay. Two things. One, God knows everything, but God also knows that what you will do on your own volition. You will do yourself. God will not force you to do. Why has He not allowed you to be rescued from the suffering that you're going through? I think you're asking this question because you are taking those sufferings as if they are punishments. They are not. Tell God, whatever you give me, whatever you send for me, I accept them. You are the best judge, and I want you to lighten my weight, make things easier for me. Be positive in your approach towards God. Ask Him to be kind and considerate, and He will give you, ease, comfort. In actual fact, He does. We all experience ups and downs, fluctuations in our lives. So, if you are complaining that your life is full of miseries, I think pray more to God. He is going to give you comfort and satisfaction, and try as best as you can, because indeed there are some parts of our lives, some phases in our lives when we do go through difficulties. But if we are continuing to be patient, if we are continuing to be steadfast, if we make sure that we do not complain to God too much, we ask for His help, we are positive, you will know, inshallah, very soon in the next life, that your suffering, worldly, physical, mental suffering, was in actual fact a blessing, because in the next life, because of you enduring them in a positive way, the Almighty is going to reward you much more tremendously. So don't think that these sufferings are a source of failure for you. They are the Almighty's kindness, which enable us to bring out the best from us. You know, I have a certain capacity to perform well, perform as a good human being. And how would it come about? How would God bring out as to whether I'm really true to my commitment with God? Well, He makes me go through different phases in life, and when I continue to perform as best as I can in the different phases of life, it's then that I prove to the Almighty that as best as I could, I did try, and hopefully your performance is going to be acceptable to Him. So be a little more positive, pray to the Almighty, inshallah, things are going to be good. Why I never had desire to do Hajj? I feel Allah is with me, He is within me, so why I need to go to Makkah to be with Him? I think it's a passing phase. I hope it's a passing phase. I also had the same feeling until such time that I realized that there are people who are going for Hajj, and I am the one who is left behind. It's probably because I had the same feeling. If you feel that God is with you, honestly, you don't know. You can't imagine how even more closer you can be with God when you are in His house. So I think when you are close to God and God is telling you that He has a house, which obviously is meant for you to remember Him, it's symbolic, and He is inviting you to come to that house. So if you are with the same God, He is inviting you to come to His house. So how can you say that, no, God, I mean, I'm not interested in your invitation. I'm okay, comfortable at my own house. It's just a passing phase, I'm sure. You know, very soon you would hopefully realize that this feeling is temporary, and it's going to be over, and you will get the experience of visiting God's house, and you will realize how incorrect your statement was that you don't want to go to His house. I mean, it's brilliant. It's an exceptionally amazing experience. G. You want to ask something more? Okay, no. So, okay, I think I've done with the questions. I can't see every question, but inshallah, next Saturday, same time, as they say, same time, same channel. Okay.
Can I just say one thing?
The very last question.
You physically and mentally don't have much strength left. So if you're saying in the next life, meanwhile you have to cope with whatever is left in this life. So I think sometimes it's easier said than done, because you are physically so weak now that you don't know who to turn to.
You know what? I am only trying to talk about God's book, you know, the Quran. God says He knows the limitations of humans, and He puts them into test, knowing what their limitations are. I know that sometimes the trials, tribulations can go beyond limits of imagination of some people. But He promises that if you don't complain about God in public, and you continue to pray to Him and remain patient and be thankful to Him, He will come to your rescue, and inshallah, He will reward you abundantly in the next life. Inshallah, next Saturday, we'll meet again. Assalamu Aleikum wa Rahmatullah wa Barakato. All right.